What's up, family? In 1 Samuel 15, the first king of Israel, King Saul, is given specific instructions from God to go and utterly destroy the Amalek people and everything that they have. Now, we see Saul move in obedience based on this commandment from God and attacks Amalek, but instead of carrying out the full commandment, Saul decides to do something that seems right in his own eyes. Instead of utterly destroying everything, Saul and the people decide to keep the king alive, the best sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lamb, and everything that was good. Now we are immediately made aware of God's disapproval of this decision as he speaks and tells the prophet Samuel that he regrets making Saul king as he has turned his back from following him and performing his commandments. In verse 13, we see Samuel confront Saul, and Saul starts by saying that he did indeed keep the commandments of the Lord. Now, Samuel asks Saul about the noise of the sheep that he hears in the background that they kept. And Saul then seems to try and correct his statement and puts the blame on the people. He states that he utterly destroyed Amalek, but the people kept the best animals to sacrifice to the Lord. Samuel then tells Saul to be quiet and reminds him of everything the Lord had told him to do, to remind him that the Lord told him to destroy everything, not to keep what he thought was best for sacrifices. Saul again responds to Samuel, trying to make his decision seem right and still putting the blame on the people that kept the animals for sacrifices. Saul seems to be making an excuse that even though he wasn't fully obedient to God, the decision that he decided to make was still to serve and glorify the Lord. Samuel then responds with the famous passage and tells Saul to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Samuel then goes on to tell Saul because of his disobedience, he would be rejected as king over Israel. Now, fam, with hearing all of Saul's excuses, I can't help but think about how we today allow our decisions and the moves we make to become influenced by things of this world. Like Saul, we try to wrap our decisions up in pretty packages and make it seem as if our decisions were truly for the Lord, when in reality, the root of our decision was based on worldly or fleshly influence. Instead of doing exactly what God told us to do, we switch some things around that seem right to us or easy to us. And like little kids, we say, but see, Lord, I am still serving you and doing this to give you honor. And yet it's true disobedience, as the Lord never told us to do that in the first place. Fam, remember King Saul kept saying, I am being obedient, but the people. Family, there's no space for that but. Our mission is to be completely obedient to what the Lord has called us to do, period. And we can't allow any amount of influence from other people or from our own thoughts to guide us off the straight and narrow. Now, at the beginning of the chapter, when Samuel was given instructions to Saul to utterly destroy Amalek, he gives us a key to make sure our actions stay aligned with God's word. Samuel tells him to heed the voice of the words of the Lord. He tells him to simply listen, to hear, to obey the word of the Lord. And that is what we have to make sure we continuously do. We have to make sure that we are listening, hearing, and obeying what our Father is calling us to do through his word. Fam, it's obvious that in order to hear, we have to listen. And we have to give ourselves a chance to hear from God by carving out that time with him and preparing that space to hear his voice with no distractions. One thing we all know is that it is hard to listen to someone while someone else is talking or when there is noise in the background. And that can include, family, your own voice. We have to practice finding that quiet time away from the world and practice quieting our own minds so that we can hear clearly from the Lord and be guided by his word. After we do that, fam, then it's all about moving in faith and trusting in what he has called us to do. Let's make sure we're paying heed to God's word and listening and doing what he's called us to do. I love you guys. Shalom. Peace.